Israel is under attack. Hamas kills 40 Israeli babies and children, and Muslim extremists in the West are supporting Hamas terrorism. These are the headlines we've been seeing pour out of Western governments and mainstream media. But let's analyze the journalistic standards at play here. Last week, the Israeli Prime Minister's spokesperson claimed that Hamas beheaded 40 babies and toddlers. Western media quickly took up that story without verifying it, and even the US president publicly claimed to have seen images of it.
Support. It matters. It matters that Americans see what's happening. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I never really thought that I would see and have confirmed pictures of terrorists beheading children.
Only for the White House to correct that the president had in fact not seen any such images, as the Israeli government said it was unable to verify the claim. Sarah Snyder, a CNN journalist, repeated this claim on live TV, telling millions of Americans and Westerners around the globe that Hamas had indeed beheaded Israeli children.
We have some really disturbing new information out of Israel. The Israeli Prime Minister's spokesman just confirmed babies and toddlers were found with their heads decapitated in Kfar Aza in southern Israel after Hamas attacks in the kibbutz over the weekend. That has been confirmed by the Prime Minister's office.
After it was revealed that the claims lacked any real evidence, Snyder simply posted on her Twitter account that she needed to be more careful with her words, apologizing for her false report. But the damage had already been done. On Saturday, October 14, a 6-year-old American Palestinian child was stabbed to death 26 times in his home by a white American man who happened to be his landlord. The child's mother also was stabbed over a dozen times and is in critical condition. Will County Sheriff's Office in Illinois said the attack was directly linked to one-sided coverage of Israel's war on Gaza. So while millions watched Sarah Snyder make false and unverified claims on live TV, she was not held accountable for violating the most basic journalistic standards of verification while reporting on behalf of CNN, one of the most widely known news outlets in the world. Furthermore, this lie was repeated again and again in the form of questions to pro-Palestinian protesters who themselves had to correct the reporters.
It is a resistance that has been fuming for 75 years of colonialism, of occupation, of murder, of rape, of little children, of women. That's what they are. They are resistance.
Do you think Canada is a colonialist country too?
Everything that they do is justified.
Including what happened last week?
Every single thing they have done is justified.
Oh, ma'am, there were children murdered, there were babies beheaded.
Oh. Babies beheaded, really? Please educate yourself.
Well,
please check the news, because as a news reporter, you gotta check the fucking news.
Other false allegations included claims that Hamas had raped and slaughtered Israeli women, which also turned out to be a lie that was widely reported in top headlines on ABC, PBS, and MSNBC with zero evidence to back them up. The reporters referenced Netanyahu's statements along with another unknown Israeli official who allegedly confirmed this information, but no evidence was provided to verify these unsupported claims that were being broadcasted as facts to millions of news consumers. Influential media personalities with millions of followers have also shared misinformation on social media. Twitter readers recently identified a viral photo that Ben Shapiro shared as evidence of Hamas burning Israeli children and were able to identify it as AI generated. Another viral video showed children in cages claiming that Hamas had taken Israeli children hostage. Online readers quickly located the original footage, which was not of Israeli children, and was posted to YouTube years ago. Media institutions are required to abide by the highest journalistic standards of truth, transparency, and credibility. A news outlet is not just sharing information, but also making political statements with every assertion it makes. This is why there are very heavy consequences for breaches of journalistic guidelines, where journalists are often fired for making seemingly small mistakes that can jeopardize a news organization's credibility. But a question to ask now is, why were none of these outlets or journalists held accountable to any degree for publishing false and misleading news that was not verified, source-checked, or confirmed? Where are the calls for truthful and unbiased reporting now? News shapes public opinion. It is no secret that governments often use media platforms to gain support for their foreign and domestic policies. This was seen extensively when the US was rallying public support for the war on terror after 9/11 by lying that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction to justify its military invasion there. Over 2 decades later, the US public realized it was all a lie and that they were fooled by their own news outlets. With such a pretext, the Israeli government and its allies in the West have extensively used war rhetoric and one-sided reporting to justify continued financial and military support to Israel. Last week, the U.S. sent 2 aircraft carrier strike groups to the eastern Mediterranean to show its commitment to Israel. Meanwhile, the American public has no questions to ask. This is while 60 people were taken into custody during a pro-Palestine demonstration in New York City. The same media outlets that gave full attention and exclusive coverage to pro-Israel demonstrations had nothing to say about pro-Palestine rallies and the arrests that were made while protesters exercised their freedom of speech. France has already banned pro-Palestinian protests and cracked down on protesters, calling them anti-Semitic and justifying terrorism. These bans on free speech and protests come as Israeli bombs have killed over 2,200 Palestinians, including 750 children, wounded thousands, and wiped out entire neighborhoods and families in Gaza. This past week has showcased scenes of absolute horror unfolding in Palestine, while yet the Western world turns its attention to Israel, whose settlers have been fleeing in masses to the airport out of fear for their lives, with the absolute assurance that Western nations will welcome them with open arms. This is while over 1 million Gazans are now displaced and homeless with nowhere to go, following Israel's warnings to evacuate Gaza and then being bombed for precisely following those instructions. All the while, media outlets here in the US divert their attention to one-sided Israeli suffering and make unverified claims that violate all journalistic standards.